What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. If you want to support me, you can now follow me through Patreon. Not only is it the best way to support the channel, additionally you'll get more say in what decks I cover. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons. Newsome, you rock. Now let's give some old commanders some love and do a deck tech on Meren. This girl's amazing and she only got more powerful with the new set Lost Caverns of Ixalan. There's a ton of graveyard tech in this set and we're going to be abusing that. Souls of the Lost has just been insane for me. It consistently overperforms, especially in decks that try to turn their graveyard into their library like this one. Once you end up with 50 or so permanents in your graveyard, this guy just gets massive. You can sack him to something like a Gerard to kill the entire table. Another thing we're going to be doing, which is kind of weird but kind of fun at the same time, is using the Shadowborn Apostles. They kind of have a cool interaction with Meren because if we sack 6 of them, boom, we get to put 6 counters on Meren and then we can easily reanimate all of our giant drops from the graveyard. We are running a Protean Hulk to make this more consistent and that way we don't have to run as much Shadowborn Apostles, so we can get away with running 8 as opposed to, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 something in a regular Shadowborn deck. So now the main goal is just to get Hulk on the battlefield, sack Hulk, and boom, you get your Shadowborn Apostles. Pretty simple, right? There's also a convoluted Hulk line that results in our opponents milling their entire library and us winning the game. So if you want to see that and you're interested in seeing how we can abuse this giant graveyard, let's get into it. The first thing we need to do is fill our graveyard. Stitcher Supplier is going to be amazing at this, not only milling 3 cards when she enters, but also when she dies. Gilgari Thug, Gilgari Grave Troll, and Life from the Loam are going to be our dredge options for the deck. Out of the Tomb is going to be amazing as well. This card gets insane. Play it early and you will be milling 8 to 10 cards in the late game. Doom Whisperer gives me Grizzlebrand vibes. Not only can you start surveilling to your key pieces, additionally you're just filling your graveyard while you're doing that. Altar of the Wretched can be incredibly impactful. Not only do you get to draw a ton of cards, you get to mill a ton of cards, you can return it from your graveyard, and in a pinch you can even exile some creatures to make a massive creature. This card is beyond flexible. Shigeki, I really like this guy as well. Not only does he mill you early game, but he also ramps you early game and then can return stuff from your graveyard. Greater Good is just a staple in these graveyard decks, especially when we have some beefy creatures in them. The Great Door is an amazing card in graveyard decks. Early game, you're tapping this for 10. Late game, you're tapping it for 50. It's insane. Bramble Familiar. Early game, you get some ramp. Late game, you get to mill 7 cards and start returning stuff from your graveyard. Underrealm Lich is also a pretty insane card. Not only does it protect itself, but you're basically drawing 3 cards whenever you draw a card, which is going to be insane and really get you to your key pieces that you need. Tekanuma is also pretty flexible, especially with Life from the Loam. It's very easy to pay that channel ability and then return it from Life from the Loam, dredge Life from the Loam, repeat, and then you have yourself a mill engine. Moving on, let's talk about the Shadowborn Apostle aspect of this deck. Again, we are only going to be running 8, which is probably the lowest count you've ever seen, but again, that is because we are running Protean Hulk. So 9 times out of 10, Protean Hulk is going to be how we get all 6 of them on the battlefield, and then not only do we get to search up a demon, but that'll also put Meren's experience counter at somewhere around 7, which can easily bring Hulk back, which is why this strategy is in the deck in the first place. Demons are also just busted, so we get to run Razaketh, which can easily get us to our key pieces to win. Burning Ruin Demon, this one's not really a downside since we are running Meren. Demon of Dark Schemes, this one's just really toolboxy and can get us what we need to while wiping the board. Doom Whisperer, already went over this guy, he's pretty busted. Omnixilus is one of our win cons in the deck, so again, we've got some pretty stacked choices when it comes to those demons. Let's go over this infinite mill combo real quick. We are running Smeagol and Dunigan Ranger. Now, the way this combo works is whenever the ring tempts you, Smeagol says, hey, choose an opponent, they mill cards till they mill a land, and then you get that land. Dunigan Ranger says, whenever a land enters the battlefield, the ring tempts you if you don't control a ring bearer. So all we need is something that can sacrifice our ring bearer, like a Viscera Seer, and then a creature that keeps returning itself from the graveyard with a landfall trigger, like Bloodghast. So now the land enters the battlefield, we trigger our Bloodghast, it enters the battlefield, we make it our ring bearer, and then we will sacrifice the Bloodghast and repeat, completely milling out all of our opponents. Now, what makes this lethal is we can have Omnixilus on the battlefield and start draining our opponents and making Omnixilus massive. Now, that's insult to injury, but I do like to just end my opponents instead of saying pass, with them having almost no cards in their library. Hulk is going to be an amazing way to assemble all of our missing pieces for this combo. We can also use stuff like Birthing Pod and Yi Sin the Wandering Bard, since this is a 1 CMC, 2 CMC, 3 CMC, 4 CMC, 5 CMC combo, right? All we need is our Vizier Seer, then our Bloodghast, then we grab our Smeagol, Dunigan Ranger, and then Obnixilis, and we're comboing off and winning from there. Fiend Artisan and Fauna Shaman can also get us to our combo pieces, and then Seedborn Muse ties it all together and makes those tap abilities very easy to activate. So now something that would take us 5 turns to assemble takes us a rotation to assemble. It's pretty broken. We will need an Agadeem's Awakening to turn our combo live if we do use the Birthing Pod line, because again, Birthing Pod is sacrificing those creatures. Yi San's probably the most efficient way besides Hulk, but again, Birthing Pod is still super solid. You just do need that Agadeem's Awakening to reanimate all of the previous pods. Moving on to the core of the deck, we have Dothi Voidwalker. This is going to be solid to hose over other graveyard strategies while also generating us a ton of value, especially in a deck where you can reliably recur this guy. Gerard Golgari Lichlord, this is going to be our other win con in the deck. When you pair it with stuff like Souls of the Lost, it's absolutely insane and does a ton of damage. Eternal Witness, just a solid staple that's going to get us the stuff we need back from the graveyard. Bala Ged Recovery, again, one of those MDFC lands that is extremely flexible. We're also using Entomb to get anything we need in our graveyard. Usually the early game, this is going to be a dredge piece. Yawgmoth Thran Physician can not only pair as another sack outlet, but additionally it kind of does everything. It's removal, card draw, a sack outlet. It's really flexible in this deck. Lightning Greaves can protect our commander. Phyrexian Tower can be another solid sack outlet while additionally netting us some mana, and then we are running Turn Timber Symbiosis just because it adds another layer of flexibility to the deck. Moving on to card advantage, we have Midnight Reaper and Grim Horspec, super solid cards, especially when we're sacrificing a ton of creatures in this deck. Braid's Arisen Nightmare, incredibly busted, especially if you start sacrificing your lands. People do not like to do that, and then you can easily get them back with something like a Life from the Loam, and then Azusa's going to make sure you stay ahead of everybody on your land, so it's a win-win. Guardian Projects and the Great Hinges in the deck, because these just care about creatures ETBing, so that's really good when your commander just brings stuff back from the graveyard. The Gitrog Monster is insane card advantage whenever you're milling this much. Moving on to ramp, we have Elvish Mystic, Incubation Druid, really good especially when we want to cast something like Reziketh for its casting cost. This can easily get rid of those 3 black pips, which can kind of be pesky sometimes. Solemn Simulacrum, just looping this guy in and out of the graveyard, generates some insane value. Soul Ring, Birds of Paradise, Secure Tribelder, and then we do have Ruthless Technomancer. This guy's going to be insane with cards like Souls of the Lost. Easily sacrifice a 50-50 for 50 treasures? Yeah, I'm game. Azusa's Lost But Seeking, again, playing additional land cards is going to be amazing, especially with Life from the Loam. These cards pair amazingly. Moving on to removal, we have our traditional Edict effects with Plague Crafter, Merciless Executioner, and Fleshback Marauder. These cards can be straight up oppressive in this deck. Ravenous Chupacabra can just get rid of any creature. Haywire Mite's going to be amazing, especially to get rid of those One Rings. Canoptic Tomb Sentinel, another amazing removal piece that exiles anything. Spectre of Mortality can be an amazing board wipe. And then we have Bane of Progress to get rid of any of those enchantment or artifact strategies. That's going to do it for the deck tech, guys. Let me know what you think about the Shadowborn Apostle tech. If I was lost in the sauce, or you could see it working. At the end of the day, I thought it'd be pretty fun and definitely catch your opponents off guard. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my patrons, especially my high contributing ones, Newsome, Chicken Salad, Excessum. You guys are amazing. You keep the channel going, along with all my other patrons. You guys are amazing. With that being said, I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.